Okay, so you've definitely heard about AI creating art, writing poems, making music, but how does it actually do it? Well, it turns out there are different kinds of AI artists, each with their own unique style. And their medium? It's not paint or clay, it's code. So let's step into the digital gallery and meet the 4 master artists of generative AI.
In this explainer, we're going to break down the 4 main types of generative models. We're going to explore their unique creative processes, what they're amazing at, what they kind of struggle with, and where you've, believe it or not, already seen their work out in the wild.
All right, first up, we have an artist who is an absolute master of summarization and efficiency. We're going to call this one the compressor. Its real name, though, is Variational Autoencoder, or just VAE for short.
So, what does a VAE actually do? Well, its whole job is to learn the most essential, the most important parts of some data. And it does that by squishing it all down into a super compressed form and then trying to build it back up again.
The best way to think about it is like a super smart data compressor. Imagine it takes a huge, super detailed picture, and it creates this tiny, simple version that still has all the key stuff. Then, it uses that simplified little summary to try and draw the original picture from memory.
And this whole process is incredibly useful. I mean, the data compression strength is obvious. It lets us store massive amounts of data efficiently. But it's also amazing at something called anomaly detection. Because the VAE gets so good at knowing what normal data looks like, it can instantly spot anything that seems weird or out of place. Now, what's the catch? The big trade-off is quality loss. The pictures it recreates, well, they can be a little fuzzy.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. When a VAE tries to rebuild data from its little compressed summary, the result just isn't quite as sharp as the original. It really is like making a photocopy of a photocopy. You lose a little bit of detail each time.
Okay, let's move on to our next artist. This one's a little different. It's not just one artist, it's actually a dramatic rivalry between two, the forger and the detective. Let's meet the Generative Adversarial Networks, or GANs.
So a GAN is made of 2 neural networks that are basically in a constant battle. On one side, you've got the generator, our forger, and its only goal is to create stuff, like images, that look so real you can't tell they're fake. And on the other side, you have the discriminator, our detective, whose only job is to spot the forgeries. They're locked in this endless game of trying to outsmart each other.
You can almost imagine the conversation they're having. The generator kicks things off. It creates a new piece of art, maybe a super realistic portrait, and shows it to its rival, basically asking, is it good enough?
The detective looks at it really carefully. It might admit, okay, this is getting pretty good, but its trained eye can still tell that something's just a little bit off. It's not a perfect fake. Not yet.
And here's where the magic really happens. The detective gives specific feedback. It doesn't just say, it's fake. It says, the eyes are a bit asymmetrical, or the lighting doesn't quite match. These are the exact clues the forger needs to get better.
And the generator takes all that feedback and learns from it. This constant back and forth, this cycle of creation and critique is what pushes the generator to get better and better, until its creations are almost impossible to tell from the real thing. It's this rivalry that makes GANs so powerful.
All right, our third artist is a much more meticulous creator. Think of this one as a poet, carefully choosing each word to build a masterpiece, one piece at a time. This is the autoregressive model, a master of sequence and flow.
So, unlike the other artists we've met, this one works step by step. It generates data one little element at a time, and every new piece it adds is based on everything that came before it. It's all about context.
So let's see how it thinks. The model itself would tell you its process is all about prediction. It doesn't dream up a whole sentence at once. Nope, it starts with just a little piece, like the phrase, the cat.
Now, based only on the context of the cat, it dives into all the text it's ever been trained on and predicts the most likely next word. In English, a super common and logical choice is sat. So just like that, the sequence becomes the cat sat.
And this one-word-at-a-time method is really its superpower. Yeah, it can be a bit slower, but it makes sure the final result is coherent and actually makes sense. And that's what makes it absolutely perfect for things that rely on sequence, like generating human-like text or natural-sounding speech.
And now for our final artist. Honestly, this one might be the most magical of them all. This artist doesn't paint on a canvas. It actually sculpts an image out of pure chaos.
Meet the diffusion model, the sculptor of noise.
And that analogy is spot on. Diffusion models don't start with a blank page. They start with a block of just random, meaningless, static noise. Then, very carefully, step by step, they chisel away at that chaos until a clear, beautiful image emerges.
The process itself is just so cool. It literally starts with an image of what looks like TV static. Then, little by little, it refines and removes that noise. It's almost like watching a photograph slowly develop in a dark room, appearing out of nowhere.
So you're probably asking, how in the world does it know what to sculpt out of all that noise? Well, it's been trained on a gigantic library of images, so it understands patterns in objects. And when you give it a text prompt, like a photorealistic image of an astronaut riding a horse, it uses your words to guide the whole transformation, turning that static into exactly what you asked for.
Okay, so we've met our 4 artists: the compressor, the rivals, the poet, and the sculptor. Phew! So how do you know which one is the right creator for the job? Let's bring them all together for a final look.
This chart is a great way to see it all side by side. The VAE, our compressor, is your specialist for squishing data down and spotting anything unusual. The GANs, our rivals, are your go-to for creating mind-blowingly realistic images, even though they can be tricky to control. The autoregressor model, our poet, is the absolute master of language. And the diffusion model, the sculptor, is the current star for creating stunningly detailed art from just a few words.
And here is where it all clicks into place. This isn't just theory. If you've ever played around with ChatGPT, you've been talking to an autoregressive model. If you've been amazed by art from DALL-E 3 or Midjourney, you've seen the magic of diffusion models. GANs are the tech behind deepfakes, and VAEs are the unsung heroes working behind the scenes in things like quality control on factory floors.
These 4 models are pushing the boundaries of what's possible, letting machines create in ways we never thought they could. They really are the foundational artists of this whole generative AI movement. And that just makes you wonder, what kind of artist is AI going to become next?